Lila leaned close enough that I could feel her breath against my ear. Grandma? I heard Mommy and Daddy say they're sending you to a place called Maple Grove today, and they're going to take your money. I kept stirring the soup like nothing had happened and pressed a kiss onto her crown of hair. Thank you for telling me, sweetheart. My hands were steady, my heartbeat was not. People confuse age with helplessness. They shouldn't. 18 months earlier, my husband Walter collapsed in our backyard and never got up again. My son Caleb and his wife Monica showed up with casseroles, solemn voices and urgent advice. Mom, you shouldn't be alone. Move in with us. We'll take care of everything. What they meant was, do the school runs, fold the laundry, and bring your pension. Today, their timeline finally betrayed them. Lila, I said lightly, would you like to come with me on an errand? We'll get cocoa. She nodded, and I slipped my leather folder, the one I'd kept ready since Walter died, into my tote. Widow's intuition, I suppose. At the public library, I found a quiet corner and dialed Noah Mercer, the attorney who'd handled Walter's will, and once upon a time my high school debate losses. Noah, it's Marion Rhodes. I need you now. Is everything all right? It will be if we move fast. Lila colored in a fairy tale book, while Noah listened to the short version. They're planning Maple Grove today. His voice sharpened. Then we'll work today. Here's the list. Revoke any power of attorney in their favor. Execute a new healthcare proxy designating me as your agent. Draft a new will. And prepare notices of demand connected to the proceeds I contributed to their debts. Also, I added, I want every cent out of accounts they can see. We walked 2 blocks to Noah's office. While Lila built a tower of wooden blocks in the reception area, Noah slid documents across the desk. I read every line. I initialed every page. I signed my name in a firm declarative hand, Marion E. Rhodes. Your new will, Noah said, tapping the last document, places the bulk of your estate in trust for Lila until she's 25. Caleb and Monica receive nothing unless a court orders otherwise. That ensures your wishes are unambiguous. Good, I said. Ambiguity is where thieves bloom. Next, stop the bank. I'd used First Riverside for 40 years. The tellers knew my birthday and my bridge partner's dog. Familiarity is not the same as safety. I asked to meet the branch manager, Kara Benton. Lila swung her legs in the kids' corner with a lollipop while Kara scanned my instructions. You want to transfer everything today to Harbor State Bank? She asked, carefully neutral. Checking saving CDs, close the safe deposit box and reopen across town. Wire the balances. We can start with the accounts ending in Fort Iowa 11 and 1184. The total should be approximately $637,000. Kara looked at my driver's license, then at me. Mrs. Rhodes, do you feel pressured by anyone? I feel prepared, I said. That will do. The wires went out in a flurry of keystrokes. Receipts stacked into a neat, satisfying pile. I tucked them into my folder, then placed the folder into my tote, then placed my tote on the floor by my feet, a ritual of finality. We made one last stop at Harbor State to open the new accounts and arranged text alerts on every transaction over $50. I also added Noah as the emergency contact on file. When the banker asked for the reason, I said I like my sleep. By the time we reached the house, the late afternoon sun had slid into that golden hour that flatters even a worn kitchen. I tied on an apron and began a pot roast, the kind Caleb devours and claims as his favorite, with garlic mashed potatoes and buttered carrots. Theater, I've learned, is half timing and half props. The rest is truth delivered at precisely the right moment. Lila sat at the table humming a tune from school. Grandma, is Maple Grove a park? Something like that, I said and kissed her forehead again. But we're not going there. I set the table. I wiped the counter. I took one steadying breath and slid the roast from the oven. The car pulled into the driveway 10 minutes early. Voices floated in, too bright, too practiced. Keys jingled. The deadbolt turned. Mom, we're home, Caleb called, cheerful in the way people are when they've already decided something for you. I smiled at the doorway, ladle in hand, the kitchen warm and bright behind me like a stage. Perfect, I said. Dinner's ready. The door swung open on a wave of 2 bright voices and too much cheer. Mom. That smells amazing, Caleb said, hanging his jacket on the chair rather than the hook he'd promised to install last winter. Monica followed, hairsprayed lips, glossed smile pinned in place. Her tote bag monogrammed tasteful thumped onto the bench as if it were a gavel about to call court to order. It's pot roast, I answered, lifting the lid so the steam carried butter and rosemary to them like a welcome. Mashed potatoes, carrots with a little orange zest. Lila set the napkins. I folded them like boats, Lila announced, appearing at my elbow. They float on the gravy. They'll sink, Caleb said automatically, already scanning the counter the way a man scans a horizon for weather. Monica recovered first, stepping into her role. Lila, wash hands, please. We have a lot to talk about after dinner. She looked at me and turned the smile brighter. But for now, let's enjoy this beautiful meal. We sat bowed, heads mumbled grace. There is a particular hush when everyone decides to pretend at the same time. Forks clinked. The roast gave way under Caleb's knife. Compliments were offered like business cards, polite, transactional, and exchange of expected phrases. So, Monica began smoothing her napkin. We had a productive day. We ran some errands, stopped by the hardware store. Caleb coughed. And we, looked at a community, just to get information. Information is useful. I agreed, spooning carrots onto Lila's plate. Which community? Maple Grove. Monica said the word soft but aimed. It's not far. They have a garden, a library, even a craft room. The staff seemed lovely. Caleb glanced at her, then at me. They have on-site medical. That's important. Is it? I asked and buttered a roll. Mom, he said carefully, you forgot to turn off the stove last week. I turned it off, I said. You turned it back on to keep the sauce warm while you took a call, then left the room. I turned it off again. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Lila watched us like a small owl, quiet and wide-eyed. Monica tried another angle. It isn't about one incident. It's about peace of mind. You've done so much for us. We want to make sure you have support. Support, I repeated, tasting the word as if it were a spice that had gone stale. Is that what they call emptying someone's bank accounts these days? Caleb's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Monica's smile held, then wavered like a candle in draft. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, she said. I suspect you do, I said. I folded my napkin and set it beside the plate. And because I believe in clarity, you will not be moving me to Maple Grove. Not tonight, not next week, not ever. This is not a discussion. Mom, Caleb said, voice lowering a half step the way it did when he needed me to back down in public. You're not being reasonable. We're not the enemy here. One of the things I've learned, I said, is that people who insist they aren't the enemy are usually looking for the back door to the fortress. We are your family, Monica said. We've taken you in paid bills, arranged appointments. I contributed $600,000 to pay off your debts. I said, still even. I sold my house to do it because my son said it would make him sleep better at night. If we're tallying sacrifices, let's use all the columns. Mom, Caleb said again, more pleading. Now the market was good. You made that choice. We discussed it as a family. We did, I agreed. But choices made under grief and pressure are not the same as choices made in daylight, which is why I spent today in daylight. There are two sounds I treasure, a child's laughter and the soft click of a plan settling into place. I heard the second sound now internally as I reached under the chair, lifted my tote, and set it on the table. The leather creaked. Monica's gaze flickered to it and back the way a nervous driver checks the rearview mirror. I don't like briefcases at dinner, Caleb said. You won't have to dine with this one long, I said. I brought it to save time, and you'll be grateful for that. Lila, why don't you put on the drawing show in the den? We'll have ice cream after. She hesitated, eyes darting between our faces. Is someone in trouble? No, I said, gentling my voice. Grown-up talk, the boring kind. She slid off the chair and padded down the hall. I waited for the show's theme song to start, then unclasped the tote and lifted out a stack of documents secured with a wide black clip. I placed it in the center of the table as if setting down a cake. What is that? Monica asked. Proof that I can still read, I said, and signed my name. The front page was a clean white sheet with a bold heading, Revocation of Durable Power of Attorney. I turned it toward them. Caleb's face changed very little, but his eyes did. They narrowed as if someone had turned down the lights. You revoked, he began. Yes, I said. As of 3 o'clock. The bank has copies. My attorney has copies. The county clerk will have a copy by morning. We were only ever going to use it if Monica started. If you decided I was incompetent, I finished. If I spilled soup on a bill or misplaced a stamp or had the audacity to fall asleep on the sofa. There's a second stack. I tapped it. New healthcare proxy, new living will, new legal agent. Caleb swallowed. Who? Noah Mercer, I said. He's already done more for me in one afternoon than the two of you have done in 18 months. That's not fair, he snapped, color rising into his cheeks. We fed you, You fed me my own money, I said, which as of today you cannot access, because we also executed these. I slid forward the next page's letters to First Riverside authorizing closure and transfers, receipts from Harbor State acknowledging new accounts, a printout of alerts configured for any transaction over $50, a notarized statement listing the accounts in question. Monica reached for the papers, then stopped herself and folded her hands. She had good hands for piano, long and quick. They trembled now. You're making a mistake, she said, breath steady because she'd practiced that line. We only want what's best. What's best for me, I said, and what's best for your monthly budget are different animals. Caleb shoved back from the table so hard his chair screeched across the tile. You think we're thieves, he said. You think we're monsters. I think you're people who are scared, I said. Scared of the mortgage of daycare costs, of the way life refuses to add up. Fear makes honest people do slippery things, but fear doesn't give you title to my life. The kitchen felt smaller. The pot roast steamed in his dish defiant as if refusing to be the prop it had been asked to be. Caleb paced once to the sink, back to the table. We went to Maple Grove to gather information, he said. We made an appointment for a tour. That's it. For tonight, I said. He blinked. You cleaned the guest room closet last night, I continued. You moved my luggage out and put it in the hall. I know, because you forgot to wipe the dust from the shelf. And when I put a sweater there this morning, I left fingertip smudges in it. Monica laughed a brittle chime. You're being paranoid. I'm being observant, I said. And because we are being honest now, let's be thorough. I have a letter for you. I lifted one more document, 2 pages cream cardstock. The heading was not bold, but tidy. Demand for accounting and repayment. Beneath it a list. 6 months after Walter died, I wired $340,000 into your joint account, I said. 2 months later, another $120,000. Then small transfers to cover your cards as the old balances came due. The total is $602,000 and change. There were emails, Caleb, from you saying I would always have a room here rent-free forever. Legally, they are ambiguous. It's unclear whether those transfers were gifts, loans, or a constructive trust created for the purpose of satisfying your debts while preserving lifelong housing for me. That ambiguity will not favor you in court, but I am still at my core your mother. So this letter asks for something precise. If you terminate my residence, the debt converts to a repayable obligation with interest from the date you change the locks or relocate me without my consent. If you do not terminate my residence, we will codify terms in writing. No more we'll see. No more later. Monica's control slipped. You can't just walk in here with a stack of printouts and threaten us. It isn't a threat, I said. It's a boundary. A boundary is a door with a knob on my side. Caleb's mouth opened closed. He was smart enough to recognize when the room had tilted. He was not yet wise enough to accept it. We can discuss numbers, he said. We can work out a payment plan, but Maple Grove is still on the table. Take it off the table, I said, or I will push the table over. He looked past me toward the hall where the den's television murmured. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet. You're taking Lila away from us. Do not put that on me, I said. I am not a gate her grandparents must pass through to see her. If you want Lila to have a grandmother, then treat her grandmother like a person. Monica pressed fingers to her temple. Can we please talk without the legalese, just family to family? We're drowning, Marion. At last she said something true. It softened something in me without loosening my grip. Then ask for a life ring, I said. Don't steal the boat. The doorbell rang. We all knew who it was. Timing is a literacy. I had taught it to myself. Come in, Noah, I called. He stepped into the kitchen wearing his courthouse jacket and the look of a man who had delivered bad news for a living. He was kind enough to aim that look at the papers instead of at their faces. Ms. Rhodes, he said formally because now we were on the record. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. Monica flinched. It's Mrs. Pruitt, she said. I kept my name. Noah nodded, adjusting. Mr. Rhodes, Miss Pruitt. He set his briefcase on the empty chair and clicked it open. The sound was a seal breaking. I'm here because Ms. Rhodes asked me to explain the documents in plain language, he said. I also brought copies for you. The short version as of this afternoon, any authority you believed you had over her finances is void. Her medical decisions will be made by me as her agent, unless she is able, and she is able. Her assets have been transferred to a bank you cannot access. She has executed a new will, the terms of which I am not obligated to disclose, but which I will summarize for clarity. The majority of her estate is placed in trust for Lila until adulthood. There are specific bequests to charitable organizations. There are no direct distributions to either of you. Monica went rigid. She's cutting us out. After everything you planned, Noah said, and then the lawyer in him softened and the man surfaced. Look, I've known Marion since we were both foolish and 16. She does not do things quickly unless a clock is ticking. Today a clock was ticking. Caleb's jaw worked. This is all because Mom is angry we went to a tour. It's because your daughter heard you say, today, I said. Because I saw my luggage in the hall. Because I found the Maple Grove brochure under the mail on the console with a yellow highlighter through memory care. Because the woman I trusted to keep my son good company smiled at me this morning and hugged me the way people do when they are saying goodbye. Monica turned her face away, the gloss on her lip cracking. Noah slid another envelope from his case. This is the demand letter, he said, echoing me, though his language was blunter. If you insist on relocating her, we will file. If you do not, we can draft a rental agreement and a domestic services contract for childcare. If you accept neither, that is your choice. Litigation will make it for you. Caleb braced his hands on the table. He had my husband's wrists sinewy and capable, good for turning in jar lids and lifting a child onto his shoulders. I let myself see that for a beat, then let it go. Can we have until the end of the week, he asked, to think. You have until 9 in the morning, Noah said, gentler than he might have been in court. because the Maple Grove tour is at 10. Caleb flinched as if slapped. Noah closed the briefcase. I'll wait in the car, Marion, he said to me then to them. You have my card. He left. The house felt quiet in his wake as if the walls had been waiting for verdict. I stood and began to clear plates. Monica rose to help out of habit or reflex, then thought better of it and sat. Caleb stared at the centerpiece he'd bought at a craft fair last fall, a jar with twine and 3 silk sunflowers. He reached for one, turned it, let it go. Where will you go? He asked finally. Someplace with fewer stairs, I said. I signed a lease this afternoon. 2 bedrooms. A pool Lila will love. That fast, Monica asked, with something like awe and something like resentment braided together. I packed a go bag when Walter died, I said. You can learn a lot from disasters. That's one of the kinder lessons. Lila's show ended. The credits song twinkled down the hall. She hopped back to the kitchen, stopping when she read the air. Children often read the air better than adults. Is the ice cream happening? She asked, small but hopeful. It is, I said. I scooped handed bowls, watched the ritual that steadies children. 2 scoops, 1 spoon, sprinkles like confetti on short parades. She ate at the table between us, unbothered by the gravity we were trying to pretend was low. Caleb smiled at her real father soft, and that sight carved a line in me that ached and would always ache the way scars remember. After dessert, I walked Lila upstairs. I brushed her hair while she told me about a science experiment that made a bottle rocket with vinegar and baking soda. Will you come to the school showcase? She asked. If your parents say yes, I said. She twisted to look at me. But you want to. I want to, I said and kissed the top of her head, more than anything. When I came back down, Monica was in the laundry room pretending to sort towels. Caleb stood by the sliding door looking out at the dark yard. We had reached the quiet after the quake, the part where everyone goes room to room and notes what still stands. I'm not ready to be the villain in this story, he said, not turning. Then don't be, I said. Stories aren't assigned. They're chosen. He exhaled, fogging the glass, then wiped it clear with his sleeve. I'll text Noah in the morning. Do, I said. I picked up my tote. Monica emerged, arms empty, the laundry room a pretext. Marion, she said, voice low, we were not trying to hurt you. I know, I said. You were trying to help yourselves. Those are not always opposite intentions, but I will not be collateral. On my way to the door, I paused at the console table with the mail. Beneath the Maple Grove brochure lay something else, an envelope with Walter's careful block letters, policy. The sight of it was like finding a seashell from a beach you thought had burned down. I slid it into my tote without comment. I stepped into the night air. Noah's dome light turned on as I opened his passenger door. We sat a moment without speaking, both of us looking at the house, as if it were a stage and the curtain had just fallen. You held the line, he said. I'm proud of you. Don't be, I said. Pride blushes. I'm aiming for something steadier. He nodded. We'll file the documents at the clerk's office at 8. I already scheduled the appointment. Your lease starts tomorrow. Movers are booked for Saturday. Thank you, I said. The envelope in my tote seemed to hum. Noah, there's something else. I pulled it out, turned it over in my hands. Walter labeled this policy. I assumed I had seen everything, but I can't remember this one. He took it, brows knitting, as he weighed it in his palm the way lawyers do when they're pretending paper has a pulse. Want me to open it? Tomorrow, I said and surprised myself. I think I'd like to sleep once, just once, without a new fact. He smiled, put the envelope back into my bag. Tomorrow, we'll read it together. Nothing gets sprung on you alone anymore. We drove in companionable silence. He dropped me at a small hotel near the river, the kind of place that smells faintly of lemon and fresh paint. I checked in under my own name. At the room door, he paused. One more thing, he said. I got a voicemail from Maple Grove. They called my office after I sent the revocation. Funny timing. They said someone had requested a competency evaluation as part of the intake process. Someone who wasn't you. I met his eyes and found the iron in my spine. Let them request it, I said. I know my name, I know my numbers, I know my enemies. He nodded, satisfied. Sleep, Marion. I did finally, with the steady hum of the river under the window and the shape of tomorrow pressed like a bookmark into my chest. At 6, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A number I didn't recognize. Atlanta area code. I watched it ring out, then listened to the voicemail. The voice was female, careful, and came with the stiffness of a person stepping into a room she'd built badly years ago. Ms. Rhodes, it said my name is Linda Haynes. I worked with your husband. I believe we need to talk about a policy you may not know about. Outside, the river kept going. Inside, I felt the old house inside me tilt, then right itself. I saved the voicemail. I texted Noah 3 words. Don't open yet. I didn't call Linda back that night. I put my phone face down, slid the envelope that said policy under my pillow like a child hides a lost tooth, and let the river steady me to sleep. Morning brought lemon light and a hotel coffee that tasted like pen caps. Noah met me in the lobby with 2 takeout cups that tasted like coffee. At 8, we file the revocation and notices, he said, handing me the better cup. Then Harbor State to confirm the wires posted. After that, he nodded at my tote. We opened Mr. Rhodes's gift. The clerk's office was still yawning awake when we arrived. We signed stamped, date stamped, and watched a deputy clerk slide our packet into a bin marked recording. In the banal choreography of government, some steps feel like prayer. At Harbor State, Kara, from the day before, called to say the wires had landed and the safe deposit box was ready. "We'll swap the keys when you come in," she said. I thanked her with the kind of gratitude that makes its way into a person's voice. Back in Noah's office, he shut the door and set the envelope on his desk pad as if it might bruise. I nodded. He pulled the clasp, slid out a folder of old-fashioned onion skin pages, and read aloud the header: Northwood's Life and Casualty Policy, number 18 to 1477, face value, 2,000. My breath went shallow as if the room had become a paper bag. Beneficiary schedule, Noah continued. Primary Marion E. Rhodes, $1,000, $1,000. Co-primary, Linda Haynes, $1,000, $1,000. Effective date, 5 years before Walter's death. Witnessed notarized. There are riders, accidental death, critical illness premium waiver. There are also, he frowned, change of correspondence forms. 3 months before Walter died, mail on this policy was redirected to care of Caleb Rhodes at his office address. He turned the page. A photocopy of a check stub, 1,000 to Linda Haynes. Another stub, identical format, but the payee line was wrong. Marion E. Rhodes, C.O. Caleb Rhodes. Noah read, voice flattening. Issued 7 weeks after death. Deposited by mobile endorsement same day. I didn't realize my hand had closed around the chair arm until my knuckles flashed white. He slid a second sheet toward me, the mobile deposit record routing numbers, a faint image of an endorsement. The scrawl looked like mine, then didn't, a loop too high, a crossbar too low. Noah kept his voice in neutral. We will ask the bank for the original endorsement image, not the low-resolution one. But Marion, it's probable your son intercepted the check and endorsed it into an account he controlled. What about the other policy, I asked, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. The $500,000 I received after Walter died. That was through Azimuth Life, he said. Separate company, separate policy, paid correctly. He tapped the Northwoods packet. This is different. It's big, and there's a paper trail he can't just charm away. My phone vibrated on the desk. The Atlanta number lit the screen again, patient as a metronome. Put her on speaker, Noah said softly. Ms. Haynes, I said. This is Marion Rhodes. My attorney, Mr. Mercer, is with me. There was a breath and a rearranging of composure. Ms. Rhodes, the woman said, voice careful but warm. Thank you for calling. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. Tell me what you know, I said. I was Walter's administrative coordinator for 15 years, she said. We were close. Too close, I suppose. He set up a Northwoods policy after a health scare. He told me explicitly that half was for his wife, half for a situation I created. Her pause told me more than her phrasing. I didn't ask questions I should have asked. I received my check promptly. A week later, your son called me. Caleb, I said. Yes. He told me Northwoods had made an error with your disbursement, that a clerical change had held your check. He asked me not to call you because, as he put it, Mom is drowning. Don't throw another wave on her. He said he would handle it. Did he mention any change of address forms, Noah asked. He said the company wanted a care of address to consolidate correspondence. He emailed me a copy showing his office. He also sent me an email to forward to Northwoods confirming I'd received my check, that there were no disputes. I did forward it. She exhaled, small and ashamed. It was none of my business, and I made it my business anyway, just in the wrong way. Do you still have those emails, Noah asked. Yes, and the check stub. I can send you everything. If you need me to swear an affidavit, I will. I am not proud of my part in any of this. After we hung up, Noah rested his elbows on the desk and looked at me, the way very old trees look at weather, not surprised, not impressed, but resolute. This is fraud, he said. Insurance fraud, bank fraud, elder exploitation. The three map onto each other like a bad Venn diagram. Will the police actually care, I asked. It wasn't cynicism, it was experience with the way people say family matter like a shrug. They will when they see $1 million instrument rerouted and deposited into an account, likely opened by a third party, he said. And they will care a lot when they see that the same third party petitioned for a capacity evaluation to cut you out of challenging it. About that, I said, and slid my phone across the desk to show him a text from an unfamiliar number. Dr. Sahana Patel, Maple Grove Intake, Ms. Rhodes. I've been asked to conduct a cognitive assessment Friday, 10 a.m. at our clinic. Please confirm. Noah's mouth made a shape that wasn't a smile. They tried to get the evaluation done under Maple Grove's umbrella. Convenient. Decline but copy me and request an independent geriatric psych evaluation instead. I'll schedule you with Dr. Patel's colleague across town who doesn't invoice Maple Grove. Won't that look like I'm dodging? I asked. It will look like you're insisting on neutrality, he said, which is what sane people do. We spent the next hour building a timeline that clicked like teeth. Walter's policy, the mail redirection, the issuance of checks. Caleb's call to Linda, the endorsements, the capacity request. Noah drafted a criminal referral and emailed it to the county prosecutor's intake desk. He CC'd the detective who'd worked a prior elder abuse case. Paperwork that had felt to me like a life raft now felt like oars. At noon, I called Monica. She didn't answer. I texted independent evaluations scheduled. We'll share details. Please do not contact Maple Grove on my behalf. M. The typing indicator bubbled, collapsed, bubbled again, then gave up. At 2, Dr. Sahana Patel, the independent one not Maple Grove's contractor, could see me. Her office was bright without being cheerful, the kind of bright that says, you are competent even on a bad day. She offered water, then a small stack of puzzles that would have insulted me, if not for the mere bright kindness in her eyes. We'll talk about current events, she said. Then I'll ask you to remember 3 words and draw a clock. Clock at 11:10, I said, smiling. Everyone draws 11:10. It flatters the hands. She laughed, and the room felt less like a test and more like 2 professionals doing a job. I named the governor the street I'd parked on, described the route from the clerk's office to Harbor State. I spelled world backward because that one always appears. I told her the 3 words when she asked Apple River Candle, then told her a story about a candle that smelled like apples by a river because stories stick better than lists. You have good strategies, she said, making a note. Your recall is excellent. Your reasoning is intact. I see no grounds for conservatorship or guardianship. Would you be willing to write that in the kind of voice judges respect? I asked. She smiled like a woman who has written a lot of such letters. Yes. By late afternoon, Noah had her report in his inbox. At 4, the detective called. This is Detective Alvarez, he said, voice brisk, tired, alive. Mr. Mercer sent me your materials. We're opening a case file. I've put a hold request on the mobile deposit image with Northwoods and the receiving bank. We'll also subpoena footage from the bank's lobby in case the original check was handled at the branch. He paused, voice shifting slightly. Ms. Rhodes, I need to ask, are you safe where you are? I am, I said, and I intend to stay that way. Good, he said, because once we put pressure on your son's paper, he may come knocking with apologies or with anger. Either way, let him knock at a police station. After the call, I sat in Noah's office and watched the light move across the bookshelf spines. Grief is a messy accountant. It counts losses in future tense. But anger, steady, cold anger, adds up clean. I glanced at my phone, 2 missed calls from Caleb, 1 from Monica, a text from an unknown number. If you humiliate my husband, I will never let you see Lila again. I stared at it until the letters turned to ants. Then I forwarded it to Noah and Detective Alvarez without commentary. Threats, Noah said, reading it, textbook. They can't keep Lila from me, I said, feeling the iron again. Courts don't like weaponized children. Courts like paper, he said. Good thing we have a lot of it. At 5, I called Lila on the family iPad, her homework tablet. Monica picked up, face taut. Marion, she said, this is a bad time. It won't take long, I said. Lila baked cookies with me Saturday. She said she wanted to show me the recipe card she wrote. I'd like to see it. Silence, then a grudging fine. Lila's face filled the screen a moment later, chocolate smudged like a mustache. Grandma, look, handwriting. She held up a card with butter cookies and block letters and a small drawing of a whisk. It's beautiful, I said. Frame it. After Monica's face returned a rigid moon, whatever you think you're doing, she said, you are tearing this family apart. No, I said, I am pulling a knife out of it. I hung up, turned off the hotel lamp, and let the room go dark, 1 square at a time, desk, chair, window. The next morning, Northwoods emailed Noah the high-resolution front and back image of the check. We sat shoulder to shoulder at his monitor and zoomed. There it was, pay to the order of Harbor State Bank for deposit. Only M.E. Rhodes. The M looked like mine. The R looked like mine if my hand had been someone else's hand wearing my hand like a glove. Underneath an additional endorsement, Caleb R. Rhodes the B, and Caleb pressed so hard it bit the paper. Noah sent the images to Alvarez with a note that lawyers write when they're trying very hard not to use exclamation points. I texted 2 words to Monica, we know. She didn't reply. At noon, Linda arrived at Noah's office carrying a small leather folio clasped like a life preserver. She was older than I'd remembered from the holiday party photos. Of course she was. We all were. Her hair had surrendered to gray in a way that looked like courage. Ms. Rhodes, she said. Then Marion. We shook hands. I felt nothing like the triumph I once imagined I might feel in such a handshake. Only relief that the past was a finite object and that we could both set it down. She slid documents out in neat order emails from Caleb, the change of address notice, the instruction he'd asked her to forward. She'd annotated each with dates and arrows like a schoolteacher grading an exam. I was not the best version of myself 5 years ago, she said, voice even. Grief and guilt make fools of us, but I can be useful now. You are, I said. Thank you. We were still signing her affidavit when my phone lit again with Caleb's name. I let it ring out, then replayed his voicemail on speaker. Mom, stop. You don't understand what you're doing. This will ruin us. It will ruin me. Think about Lila. Think about what this will do to her. I saved it, and while Noah watched, forwarded it to Alvarez. Then I called Caleb back. Marion, please, he said, answering on the first half ring. We can talk. We can fix this quietly. Quietly is how you did it, I said. Loudly is how I'm fixing it. You want me in jail? He asked, flat and small. There was an echo as if he'd stepped into an empty conference room where people go to lie in private. I want you to be a man I can trust, I said. If a judge has to help you find that man, that's between you and the judge. He was silent long enough that I pictured him pinching the bridge of his nose the way he did when Bills arrived. You'll never see Lila again, he said finally, and then as if he heard himself, I didn't mean that. You did, I said. Keep the text you sent Monica from your phone because I already kept it from mine. He hung up. Noah slid me a glass of water. I know this feels like walking through fire, he said, but you're not burning, you're tempering. By late afternoon, Detective Alvarez called again. We have enough for a warrant to seize bank records and devices, he said. A judge just signed. We'll serve this evening. We're also notifying Child and Family Services that there's a pending investigation, so no one plays keep away with your granddaughter as leverage. The word serve this evening landed like a gavel between us. I pictured the front of Caleb's office building, the glass door, where I'd watched him walk out after promotions with a loosened tie and a loud laugh. I pictured the exact sound the door would make when someone in a city jacket pushed it in with purpose. Do you want to be the one to tell him? Alvarez asked. No, I said. I want to be the one to tell Lila the truth in a way she can carry. After he hung up, Noah and I finished Linda's affidavit and scanned it. She left with a long hug that tasted of salt and thyme. I sat a while longer in Noah's office, the window reflecting the soft gray of early evening, and thought about the many ways love fails by excess, by cowardice, by being too late. My phone vibrated on the desk. A new text not from Caleb or Monica this time, but from a number tagged Northwoods Compliance. Ms. Rhodes, this is to confirm receipt of your counsel's inquiry regarding Policy 18 to 1477. We have flagged the account for investigation and will cooperate with law enforcement. Please note additional beneficiary change requests were submitted the week prior to the insured's death. Copies attached. The attachments opened like doors in a house I had lived in for decades without noticing the rooms. Request to change beneficiary, proposed primary 100% to Caleb Rhodes. Denied as untimely. Walter had tried to move the last piece on the board and the clock had run out. I did not know whether to be angry, grateful, or both. I settled on awake. Noah read over my shoulder and whistled the tiniest sound. This, he said, is going to make a prosecutor very brave. We were still looking at the screen when a final text appeared, this one from an unknown local number I recognized after a beat as Caleb's assistant, a woman who'd once sent me a thank you note for banana bread. Ms. Rhodes, I thought you should know there are police officers in the lobby asking for Caleb. He told me to say he's in a meeting. They said they'll wait. I typed back, tell them to check the conference room with the frosted glass. He hides there. Then I deleted the line and wrote instead, thank you. Noah grabbed his jacket. Let's go, he said. To where? He looked at me the way a person looks at a finish line and a starting gun at the same time. To do what you asked for from the beginning, he said. To watch the consequences find the right address. We stepped into the hallway. The office lights hummed. Somewhere in the building, a printer coughed. My phone buzzed one more time, a new voicemail from Monica timestamped 2 minutes ago. I didn't listen. I slid the phone into my tote beside the policy folder, zipped the bag, and followed Noah out into a blue evening that smelled like rain and the clean edge of something breaking the right way at last. We parked across from Caleb's building as dusk pressed its palm against the glass. 2 cruisers idled at the curb. Through the lobby windows, I could see Detective Alvarez speaking to the receptionist with the respectful gravity of a man who doesn't need to raise his voice to carry authority. Noah stayed beside me. You can wait in the car, he said. I've done enough waiting, I answered and stepped out into the blue air. Inside, the marble made our footsteps sound like statements. Alvarez turned, recognized me, and inclined his head toward the corridor. Conference room, he asked. Frosted glass, I said. End of the hall. He nodded to his partner. They moved with the precise choreography of practiced consequence knock. Identify, pause, enter. Through the frosted pane I saw shapes, my son's unmistakable in the slope of his shoulders freeze, then stiffen. Voices low and professional carried just enough to register the words warrant and cooperation. A chair scraped, paper rustled. When the door opened again, Caleb stood in the threshold, face the color of paper. He looked at me as if he'd stepped on the one stair that was shorter than the rest. Mom, he said in a tone that used to work on me when he was 5 and had broken the lamp. Alvarez spoke gently. Mr. Rhodes, you are being detained during execution of a search warrant for financial records and electronic devices. If you have counsel, you may call him. Caleb's eyes stayed on mine. There are moments when love is the hardest thing to hold still. I held it still. Call Marcus, I said, not Noah. I don't mix my lawyers. He swallowed. Are you pleased? No, I said, relieved. They walked him to his office. Doors opened, boxes appeared. A printer coughed out the list of items to be seized. I stepped back into the lobby, sat on a leather sofa, and folded my hands like a woman waiting for a bus that was always going to arrive whether I believed in buses or not. When they let him pass me again, phone surrendered a laptop in a plastic bag, he lowered his voice. Tell Lila I love her. Tell her yourself, I said, with the truth. The next days unspooled like meticulous thread. Northwoods confirmed the endorsement on my check had been altered. Harbor State produced the receiving account records. Caleb had opened a business account, then immediately transferred funds into his personal mortgage and a brokerage that had not done as well as his swagger suggested. Linda's affidavit landed like a well-aimed stone. Dr. Patel's evaluation glowed with the light of clinical clarity, no basis for guardianship. The prosecutor's office moved faster than I had cynically predicted. The number of zeros does that to a calendar. Monica called twice and sent 3 texts. The first, we need to talk. The second, my lawyer says say nothing. The third arrived at 2 a.m. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was the only one I answered. Then stop threatening to keep Lila from me. She wrote back, I won't. Detective Alvarez called to say Caleb had surrendered without drama when the complaint became an arrest, insurance fraud, theft by deception, forgery, exploitation of an elder adult. He was booked arraigned, released on bond with surrender of passport and weekly check-ins. It wasn't handcuffs on a front lawn at dawn. Consequences rarely look like television. They look like calendars and paperwork and the dull ache of new routines. I moved into my apartment that weekend. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, a view of a river that minded its own business. I hung Walter's photograph in the hallway not as absolution, but as inventory. I placed Lila's cookie cart on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a pear. I slept through the night for the first time in months. A week later, Monica brought Lila over with a tote full of library books and a tentative smile. We told her Daddy is in some trouble, she said at the door, voice low. We told her trouble has rules and we're following them. You did well, I said. Lila ran past us to the balcony. Grandma, this view? She pressed her hands to the glass. Can we count dogs? We can count all the dogs, I said. We counted 32 before the sun went down. When I tucked her in on the pullout, she turned toward me in the half-dark. Is Daddy bad? He's not bad, I said. He did bad things. Now he's doing hard things to fix them. Will you stop loving him? She asked, testing the edges of the world. No, I said, but I will stop helping him lie. She seemed to accept that. Children are born understanding boundaries. Adults teach them to forget. I kissed her hair and sat a while listening to her breathing even out like waves. 3 months later, we were in a courtroom that smelled faintly of dust and dry leaves. Caleb stood at the defense table in a suit he'd once worn like a uniform and now wore like a reminder. His lawyer had hammered out a plea guilty to reduced counts of theft by deception and bank fraud, dismissal of the elder exploitation charge conditioned on full restitution and compliance with counseling. The judge, an unsentimental woman with eyes like polished stone, asked the usual questions and a few unusual ones. Are you pleading because you are guilty? Caleb said yes. Do you understand what you took can't be measured only in dollars? Caleb's voice broke on yeah. When it was my turn to speak, I carried no pages. My hands knew what to do without them. Your Honor, I said, looking at the bench, not at my son. I'm here because silence taught my family the wrong lessons. I ask the court for accountability that doesn't confuse pity with mercy. I am not asking to be made whole. Money is arithmetic, and this has never only been arithmetic. I am asking that my son be required to tell the truth out loud to me, to his daughter, to himself, until the habit is stronger than the fear that made him lie. The judge studied me as if I were a statute she needed to cite. Then she turned to Caleb. You will pay restitution $702,000 in interest on a schedule set by probation. You will serve 12 months in county with work release and 5 years probation with mandatory financial ethics counseling. You will have no access to your mother's accounts. You will not impede her relationship with your child. If you do, I will see you again and you will not enjoy the visit. The gavel didn't bang, it landed. Outside in the corridor's breathless acoustics, Caleb leaned against the wall like a man who'd finally learned walls are for leaning, not for hiding. He looked at me without challenge. I hate what I did, he said. Good, I said. Hold on to that. Hate that more than you hate being caught. He nodded, then cleared his throat. When I get out, could we try? He gestured helplessly a boy again for a heartbeat. Something that doesn't require you to lock your purse. Maybe, I said. On my terms. Transparency counseling. No financial entanglement, no weaponizing Lila. We build something small and honest, or we build nothing. I can do small, he said. Do honest first, I said. Monica joined us, cheeks pale but set. I've started working at the dental office full-time, she said, almost defiant. I'm selling the SUV, we're recalibrating. I'm glad I said and meant it. Lila needs models more than speeches. Life after verdict was not a sunrise. It was a sequence of lights coming on, room by room. I joined a watercolor class and painted badly with joy. I hosted book club and did not apologize for preferring mysteries with tidy endings. I volunteered at the animal shelter and learned that kittens are the only thing strong enough to derail a legal strategy meeting. On Sundays, Lila and I walked the river path with paper cups of cocoa. We counted dogs and boats and knew words she liked the taste of. Sometimes Monica joined us, sometimes she didn't. Sometimes Caleb called from the work release program and told Lila about the tomatoes he was learning to grow in the garden there. He never asked me for money, I never offered. That was a kind of love, too. One evening, Noah came by with takeout and a grin he tried to hide behind the bag. Northwoods closed their investigation, he said. They issued a formal apology for mailing a check to a care of address without verifying. They're donating $50,000 to an elder justice fund in your name. I told them to spell it right. They will, I said. Everyone remembers the names they put on plaques. He raised his cup to your line in the sand. I raised mine. To learning that sand can be bedrock if you press hard enough. Later, after he left, I stood on the balcony and watched the river carry lights the way a pocket carries coins, soft, bright, inevitable. I thought about Walter's last late attempt to change a beneficiary and about the judge's voice when she said truth out loud. I thought about a little girl who folded napkins like boats and wanted them to float. I went inside and wrote 3 sentences on an index card and taped it to the inside of my front door where only I could see. Tell the truth sooner, call things by their names, love without surrendering the keys. The next morning, Lila burst in with a science fair ribbon and the certainty that we needed to celebrate immediately, preferably with cookies for dinner. We'll make a rule exception, I said. Just this once, she asked, bargaining like a lawyer. Just this once, I smiled and meant every urn shining once that comes next. The kettle sang, the oven warmed, the river moved forward as rivers do, and so did we. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.